Hello, and welcome back to All of Us Studios. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube at a later date, or if you're live stream with us right now on twitch.tv/All of Us Studios, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching our video and supporting our content. As always, you can find us on all of our channels. At the end of this pre-recorded video, you'll have links to everything, so we'll shoot you that then. So today, we're going to talk about the Myers-Briggs personality, the MBTI personality test. And this is a typing test to find out how people's preferences for how they're going to move about the world and things that are going to direct their behaviors, not exactly says what their behaviors are and the strengths and weaknesses of their behaviors per se, but more the strengths and the weaknesses and more the dominant and the inferior of their personality preferences of how they're going to go about taking in information, utilizing information, how they're going to seek out information, how they're going to gain energy from that type of information, and overall how they're going to interact with the world and be a part of our society. So today we have Celeste and Will. So can you guess who Will is?
Who am I?
You guys know Will.
Who am I?
Whatever.
I have no idea who I am.
Yes. So Celeste, thank you for being on the show. This is our first time having Celeste on. So you guys don't be too mean to her in the comments. She's going to provide some great insight for us today on the N. What are you again? ENFJ, right? You're an ENFJ, just like Will. You both are, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll break that down and we'll tell you guys all about that. So how we're going to do it today is I'm just going to basically give you guys some background, some history on the situation, give you a frame of reference to work with, and let you guys really absorb this and take in and learn something from this situation before we get into talking about our individual preference types and kind of how that's going to dictate our behaviors. So
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for asking, man. No, things are good. It's been one heck of a day. We've been working super hard, and we're excited to bring you guys some good content here on our podcast.
Indeed.
Yep. So diving into it, here's some background information that's probably going to interest you if you're here interested in this topic. So Catherine Cook Briggs and Isabella Briggs Myers, mother and daughter, Catherine being mother, Isabel being the daughter. They are the two kind of big leading forces that actually put together, did research, and designed the MBTI test. They derive a lot of their information based off of Carl Jung's principles. I'll explain a little bit about that later, but they were the ones that actually created the test. So Catherine Cook Briggs, she graduated from Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, met her husband Lyman Briggs, a physicist, and had their first daughter Isabel. So just to give you guys a reference for time frame, Isabel was born October 18th, Will's birthday. Hello, Dad Librado, in 1897. So this was a while back, right? These people were really ahead of their time, honestly. So Isabel was homeschooled by her parents, who believed that letting their daughter study some topics of her own interest was more important than having her learn the intended school curriculum of the time. So they weren't all about just the public school thing. They thought they had a little bit better way of going about it. Were you guys homeschooled? Or I know Will, obviously we went to school together, so I know you were a public school boy. But Celeste, homeschooled?
No, I wasn't.
Did you guys ever interact with any homeschool kids or notice any differences with those kids if you had?
I mean, all the time. I mean, especially in sporting, activities, you would get your, not, a majority by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly a handful of your homeschooled kids who were involved in public or, recreational sports, so to speak. And, you were involved as I was involved. So I think that, they definitely brought a different energy to whatever activity it was that they were contributing towards, or whether it's team or an individual, gathering or whatever, but they definitely brought a different energy. And that's what I would say as far as that's concerned.
Gotcha.
What do you think?
So, I've never dealt with anyone who was homeschooled,
Oh, really?
like at all.
Yeah.
Because I was on military bases, so growing up as a military kid, military brat, pretty much the term is. Where both parents or one parent is a part of the military and you live on bases, and you're pretty much your rent or whatever is paid for by the military, but all the kids that were involved in that were like the same. They kind of had this very, I mean, not saying I was, but
Of course not.
I was very introverted. I was the nerd in the
Oh,
class.
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And everyone else was just like very into sports, cheerleader type, because the parents were just very, very motivated by the military.
Uh-huh.
So I can't say anything about
Gotcha.
homeschooled.
So that might be like an interesting kind of its own subcategory from like homeschool, private school, public school, charter school, and then maybe like literally like military based kids that they probably have a much different schooling, especially if you're moving around and things like that. So I would imagine that would lead or lend them to that might be honestly kind of polarizing. I feel like they would either be very introverted or very extroverted. Moving to the new school, they're kind of used to boom, blowing up and making new friends, or just kind of like, what's the point, What's the point of making new friends? I'm just going to move again in, 3 months or whatever. Is that...
That's how I was,
That's how you
honestly,
were? Cool.
Until my dad, who was infantry during the time, we would move over, and the last duty station before he got out was... I'm sorry.
I'm like inching closer to you. I'm sorry.
And the last base that we stayed at was in Tennessee, which I actually call my home state. Not so proud of it right now. I'll just say that it's my home state because all my best friends are there.
Oh, yeah.
So that was probably like my home state, and I met 4 of my best friends there, and we still keep in contact.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
But after my dad got out, my mom got in, and just having to move around and bounce around from Germany, New York, Tennessee,
It's quite the
St.
bounce.
Louis, back to Tennessee, back to New York, and then back again.
Uh-huh.
It was definitely a struggle to make friends. Like, we moved, like, I think the minimum amount of time that you can stay at a base is 3 years.
Okay.
But you can extend, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Me, when I joined, I went to Fort Lewis, and I stayed there for my entire, duty station, like my entire contract.
Gotcha.
So it could be different for other people.
Yeah.
But most families, like if they have a very overpopulated or a very needed job in the military, like infantry or medics, they just bounce around a lot.
Gotcha.
So
That's interesting. So you're an extrovert. So did you go out and have to make friends, boom, right away? Like right when you got there, you were like, I need to establish myself with a network?
no, I was more of just the type that would stay in class, and I would observe what other people were into. Like I said, it wasn't until I actually got to Tennessee and I was like a freshman in high school that I actually made like dominant friends, and that's when I actually reached out at that point.
Interesting. So we'll come back to kind of this story. This will be a really nice interplay into and a backstory of who Celeste is, and maybe when we're going through this, some things will kind of be pulled out that will be interesting that makes sense towards the story that she just told us. So back to our history lesson here, people. So So Isabella was homeschooled. In 1923, Catherine began to dive into the work of Swiss psychoanalyst, like I said, Carl Jung, and specifically his work on psychological character types. So he had already been diving into this area. Catherine found it very interesting. Isabella not so interested in it, but with her mother being so driven in this field, she ended up jumping on board and helping out, and ended up actually being the one to finish and create the MBTI eventually. So Catherine created her first vocation test for children after researching and writing many essays on child development and education. Her first 2 big papers on the subject released in the Journal of New Republic and were published in 1926 and 28. So we got to think here, timeline-wise. These people are living through the Great Depression, and I think that and some World War action, and they you'll see how that actually actually influences how they gain interest and become, how they end up wanting to fulfill the role of creating this test. So her first take on the test landed her with 4 main personality types, those being meditative, spontaneous, executive, and sociable types. Seeing her mother's work on personality wasn't of great interest to her daughter, Isabel, until they began creating personality types specific to the individual's optimal work, Great Depression, and wartime jobs, World War, right? So Isabel herself didn't actually wasn't super into it until she found how much she could impact the world by maybe creating it and helping people find a place for themselves in the world, finding an identity for themselves. So from there, they began running their first human assessment with George Washington Medical School students. The information gained from this assessment and further research led the creation of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, which was added to the Educational Testing Services Collection in 1962 and since has been taken by an estimated 50 million people in hopes to help people in discovering the mechanism and growth patterns of their personality. So the test itself is used frequently in university students seeking how they can best fit into a career and within interpersonal relationship management, as you can imagine, knowing your partner and kind of understanding them even just the slightest bit more and understanding how they communicate and being able to read your partner, right? That is going to give you tenfold brownie points from any rose you're going to be able to give them if you can listen and understand what they're saying, right? So I actually, first time I took the MBTI was in college my freshman year in a career education course to try to help me figure out what major I should be put in. And so the MBTI was just part of a package that Oregon State University, where I went to school, had together, and they used that as one small part of a pie to help direct you in where you should go. Mine ended up coming out completely useless because apparently my skills, and it's very interesting because the MBTI actually reinforces this exact point. My skills are very wide-ranging and not specific, so I'm kind of a jack of all trades, and can do the first part of any job, learn it really quickly, but typically not the best closer, as we'll talk about later. So the test itself now has 16 different personality types. These types have all adopted their own nicknames. I believe Will and Celeste are the protagonist, and I am the campaigner or champion, it's called. So these types have all adopted their own nicknames, like I said, over the years to help individuals identify with a personality archetype and gain a better sense of identity. The 4-letter abbreviation is based on having one of 2 distinguishable traits in each of 4 areas. The 4 areas are designed to express a person's preference and not their abilities. So we're going to go through here real quick. Well, maybe not real quick. We got a full podcast for you, but we're going to go through and break this down so you have a better understanding of what we're talking about. So this 4-letter system that they use is specific to the MBTI, and so this is what is your individual acronym after you take the test that kind of shows your preferences. So the 2 attitudes are introversion and extroversion. So introverts being people who draw and build energy from self or from situational reflection. They tend to reflect before action and then reflect on the action that they've taken. Their flow is directed toward concepts and ideas. They seek depth of knowledge and influence, and they prefer deeper connections with a smaller group. So if that sounds like you, if you're a person who builds energy from self-reflection or from situational reflection, from kind of thinking about things, understanding things, and then deciding and making a decision then before you move forward and just take action on something. And if you're a person who seeks a little more one-on-one time or small groups rather than you're the big socialite, maybe you're an introvert. So the other attitude is extroversion, people who draw and build energy from action. They tend to act, then reflect, then act again. So you see how there's it's kind of inverse with introversion there. They act, reflect, act, where introverts reflect, act, reflect. So extroverts also, their flow is directed towards objects and people. They seek a wide range of knowledge and influence, and they prefer frequent interaction with the world around them. So they're out and about. They're talking to a lot of people. They're shaking hands. They're just taking action on a feeling or on an intuition or on a thought or a judgment that they may have about a situation. They're the people that are going to take action and go seek it out, where an introvert may think about it first, try to come up with a solution. Some of those people they go by, I know my uncle is a work smarter, not harder type of person, I'm kind of a work harder, not smarter type of person sometimes, where I'll just get in there and messily attack a problem without ever really thinking it out, and then just figuring it out on the way. Now moving to our 4 personality functions, which are broken down as dominant, auxiliary, tertiary, or inferior. So these 4 personality functions, they're gonna act as preferences that are going to mature over time with your use of them. So your dominant function is just the one that you prefer to use the most. That's the muscle that you flex the most. It's going to grow the most. That pattern within you is going to become a much bigger part of your personality because it is your dominant function. And so on and so forth with auxiliary, tertiary, and then inferior being the one that you flex the least, the one that you don't necessarily go to, and one that that is not exactly mature. Okay, so your information gathering functions are two of your personality functions. These information gathering functions are sensing or intuition, S and I. Sensing people gather, understand, and trust information that is present, tangible, and concrete, or can be gained through the 5 senses of the body. These types often prefer hard data and facts to prove their truth. So these are the kind of people that are just really, really understanding of metrics and breaking a logical situation down and then making a decision based off of that. Intuitive people gather, understand, and trust information they have derived from pattern recognition in past experiences, and then tend to extrapolate assumptions of how those patterns will play out in the future. So these are people that think about what this person has done repeatedly, what is this action that has happened repeatedly, what was the cause, what was the effect, and then they make the assumption and perceive that that same thing is going to happen again. I would imagine that would make it change a little bit difficult. When a sensing person who's maybe a little bit more logical would be able to break it down and say, this is not good for me, or this is something that is not going to be helpful. So we're going to make a logical and rational change here. Where an intuitive person may kind of get stuck in a loop where they're like, oh, this is going to happen, and then maybe it does, and it proves them right, and they feel good, or maybe it doesn't, and they have to then figure out how they're going to deal with that. So, and there's obviously a ton of different ways you're going to deal with being wrong in life, which is going to happen all the time. So you better figure out a good coping mechanism. Hopefully not drugs and alcohol. So our other 2 personality functions are decision-making. These are our decision-making functions. And so we have thinking and feeling, T and F. So more thinking people are going to make judgments on information from a detached point of view and then choose what is most rational, logical, and consistent to the rules of the situation. So these are people that can step back out of a situation, look at it logically, and determine what are the rules here, what are we playing within, what are our boundaries, and let's make the proper decision there based on all the facts at hand. The feeling people make judgment on information from a connected point of view and then choose what is most harmonious for all parties involved in the situation. This personality type often gives weight to the truth in the situation. So this is the kind of person who's going to go into a situation or sit back from a situation and observe, but take in all parties' information. Maybe they're the one listening that's standing in that circle and they're listening to people bicker back and forth and taking in everyone's point. And then when the time is right, they come to this, hey, what is going to be the best thing for everyone in this situation? How can we all walk away happy? So that is going to be the feeling decision-making function. And finally, our last ones are lifestyle preferences. So this is an interesting one because it actually, within the Myers-Briggs test, it's connected more heavily to the other ones. So the lifestyle preferences is for extroverts is going to describe their primary function. So whatever their primary function is, they're going to do that in a more extroverted fashion. And for introverts, the lifestyle preference is going to describe their auxiliary or secondary function. So whichever their secondary function is, they're going to do that in a more introverted way. So our 2 So our two lifestyle preferences are judging and perceiving, J and P. Judging are our closers. We made a little baseball reference here. So judges are our closers, perceivers are our starters. Perceivers, you'll see how that makes sense in a second. So judgers, the closers, this types likes to have things completed. They like to check the box. This type, that's it. That's Will. Yes, that is exactly Will. We're perfect. You'll see how we are as a business. We work very, very well together, and this is a main driver of that. So this type like to have things completed. This type like to live in a structured way, kind of planners. Quick changes can be difficult for this type because it breaks their structure, right? So if you have a plan, you have an itinerary, something bad happens, maybe, I don't know, someone calls you, something terrible happens, you got to change plans right away. This can be harder for someone who may be a judger because they had a plan in their head of what they wanted to do and how they wanted things to go, and that got disrupted. So where perceivers, the starters, this type like to have lots of options and possibilities open. This type like to live in an unstructured way, and this type may have difficulty with deadlines or cleanliness because new information can easily take precedence in their lives. So this type of thing, just like we were saying, maybe they're in the same situation, someone calls, something drastic happens, and bang, they're like, this is more important. Like they just drop it, no emotional damage, they just move on their way, right? They just boom, boom, switch gears. Where for a judger, they may take that and have to process that a little bit and then make their decision. So now going into our specifically our types. So I am an ENFP, and which is an extroverted, intuitive, feeling and perceiving type, where Will and Celeste are ENFJs, which are pretty similar but with a significant difference. ENFJs are extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging people. So ENFPs, the campaigner or the champion. Myself, I found this little quote online from one of the 16 Personalities websites. You can go there and take a free test there. It's not the exact Myers-Briggs test. You can pay like $50 to take the Myers-Briggs test, or you can take the other one. Thanks, Real Stunt Panda. Appreciate you for being here. Their little quote is pretty interesting and really connected with me and who I am. So the little quote, I wanted to read these out to you. So the ENFPs, or the champion or campaigner, it says, "It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dreams, for the adventure of being alive." And that resonates very heavily with me because I definitely, if you look at my past experience, I am definitely willing to look like a fool for love, dreams, and adventure, and that kind of adrenaline rush of feeling alive and being right here, being on stage, running this podcast with Will, and this kind of thing pumps me up, and it's something new and novel for me, and definitely fits my personality there. So the ENFJs, Will and Celeste, the protagonists, their little quote here. And I want you guys to tell me if this resonates with you as people.
Sure.
So everything you do right now ripples outward and affects everyone. Your posture can shine your heart or transmit anxiety. Your breath can radiate love or muddy the room in depression. Your glance can awaken joy. Your words can inspire freedom. Your every act can open hearts and minds.
No. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
no, it's very spot on.
Is it?
I think that, especially, the transcendence of energy, being able to command control of a room in a split second and taking that energy and putting it for the better, the positivity, the people. We are for the people. That's what it says in our description. You know what I mean? It's that we fight for those people. We champion for them. And so we get excitement. We get that dopamine hit because we're able to not only help ourselves in that moment, but we're helping them.
Yeah.
And so that connection is something that is, it's unprecedented as far as I'm concerned. I love being that way. I'm not sure how I could be any other way, and I think that's silly to ask somebody else. How would you feel if you were an ENFJ as opposed to an ENFP?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. That's
No.
hard to wrap your brain around. But I do feel very comfortable in the assessment. Now, whether things are true or not, whether things are accredited or whatever, whatnot, we have somebody chiming in here, Real Stunt Panda, saying, that it's total BS, but it's all opinion at this point. The fact is that, it really comes down to opinion based. If it's used in a applicable way to help society and not hinder, then there's merit and benefit to it. You can always use tools like that for the wrong. Always.
Yeah.
Always. It doesn't matter what the circumstances of the case is. You can always turn that to be something that's not intentional. And that's where I think that there are naysayers or discreditors or anything along those lines. So I think you have to have Hitler. An open mind, right?
Right. If you're going to personality type and cast people out for being a specific way, I mean, Hitler was a prime example of that. So the MBTI obviously not trying to create societal genocide, but I hope. But along those lines, I think that people, when they feel like, okay, why are we typing people? Why are we putting people into boxes? They're going to feel backed into a corner. Or they could say, just like what you said, this is just a tool. How can I use this? What's the nugget of information here that connects with me? And how can I use this to better myself? Doesn't have to be 100% God's gift of a scroll, the piece of parchment that's going to give you your purpose in life, right? So, Celeste, do you think that you connected with that ENFJ little quote that I said there?
I mean, I can agree. Yeah, I think I connected well with it. I always find myself more giving to others and wanting them to be happy over my own happiness, but in doing so, I also gain that happiness at actually like seeing what I've done or what I did to help them made them happy, and I gain joy for that, because it's just, you want to see those that you help happy, and then in turn you receive that happiness at the same time. It's just like, I help someone. That's such a great feeling.
I definitely see that in you. I mean, every time that we've interacted, it seems like you always have a little something extra. You always bring something to the table. Literally every time that I see you, you bring something over, like something fun for us to do, something that we can interact with, or just simply a gift. I mean, you've brought me gifts like the second time I ever met you. It was pretty incredible. Most people don't do that, and they don't take their time out of their day for, especially someone who's brand new in their life. So, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I think it nails you right on the head. So I'm going to go through here, and we're just going to talk about you guys for a minute, okay? How's that sound? Can we talk about you?
Yeah, you bet.
Sweet. So we're going to go through kind of some strengths and weaknesses, and I want you guys to kind of give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Not actually physically thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, we should definitely do that.
Yeah, that would be funny. But tell me if, which one of these actually really feels like it is a part of you, or maybe they got this wrong, and that's something that we can definitely figure out too.
Sure.
So we're going to start here with your strengths. So your strengths are being tolerant. So protagonists are true team players, and they recognize that means listening to other people's opinions, even when they contradict their own. They admit they don't have all the answers, and they are often receptive to dissent, so long as it remains constructive. Do you feel like you do have a high tolerance?
Even when we don't want to, even when it hurts, even in the 11th hour, the answer to that is absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're sitting across from me right now.
Absolutely.
This man has the highest tolerance of anyone alive.
It's true.
But
I mean, it's to a T.
Thanks for being my best friend.
You bet, my man.
I love you.
I love you too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it absolutely hits it to a T. I mean, the fact is that it's a perception thing. I think if I had to boil it down to one word, for me personally, it comes down to perception. Perceive things around you. Take in your situational awareness. Take in the things like the people and the environment and all of those factors, and what's the best for everything. That's my process, and that's a crazy process.
That's just a lot.
It's
to take in all the time.
And you have to distinguish, and you have to compartmentalize between being like this people pleaser or this environmental pleaser or whatever and whatnot. And you have to do it intrinsically with self-motivation and fulfilling the self to be able to also connect and get that, like I said before, dopamine hit.
Yeah.
with, helping others or relieving others or whatever it may
Exactly.
be as far as that cause, so to speak. And I know for me, it's you can't shut it off. Is there a bug flying around? You can't shut it off. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it is for you, but what does it feel for you? Like, it's almost intoxicating. It's almost to the point where, I mean, my wife and I joke about it all the time. Like, it's a blessing and a curse. Like, because I think, like, I sometimes straight up just be like, you know what? Ignorance is bliss. This is great. Like, I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to worry about anyone. Like, it's amazing. But would I really feel good about that?
No, that's so back a few years ago, I took a debate class, and I honestly love that class to an extent because it actually made me learn if I'm going to become involved in a topic, I need to know what the hell I'm talking about, and also become the devil's advocate regarding it. Like, just for the fun and game of a debate, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, that debate class was to play, the side you were on or the opposite side. And I learned so much from it. I can't remember my teacher's name, otherwise I would give her, like, a shout out. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. But, no, I completely...
Yeah.
I completely agree.
She loves you.
Like, it's gotten to a point where now I feel I can't talk about what I'm really passionate about anymore, just because how people they involve more of their emotions in topics rather than what they actually know about a topic.
Yeah.
And I find myself unable to talk to others because they either get offended or no, they just get offended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's something that we talk about and we strive to really reinforce with all of our podcasts is that, Celeste is passionate about something. Someone else, you don't have to be the expert, but you also don't have to get offended if you're not the expert, right? So, like, you can just have that conversation with them and you don't need to feel uneasy. You don't need anxiety. If you aren't the expert on that topic, you can still talk about it based off of your own experiences. You don't have to, be fearful of the fact that you're not perfect, because you're not perfect and none of us are perfect. And so it's okay. Have that conversation with her, please. She's a very nice person. So moving on from tolerance, we're going to talk about, this one actually we're just going to roll right through because I already know the answer here, and it's reliability for the ENFJ. So the one thing that galls protagonists the most is the idea of letting down a person or cause they believe in. If it's possible, protagonists can always be counted on to see it through. I know that for a fact. Will is one of the most reliable people that I've ever met in my life. He holds me accountable, and I am not as reliable as he is, and I know that it pains him, and I try my best to be, but the guy is, he's reliable as they come. Next is charismatic. Charm and popularity are qualities protagonists have in spades. They instinctively know how to capture an audience and pick up on mood and motivation in ways that allow them to communicate with reason, emotion, passion, restraint. Whatever the situation calls for, talented imitators, protagonists are able to shift their tone and manner to reflect the needs of the audience while still maintaining their own voice. What do you guys think? Are you guys charismatic individuals?
We're chameleons. I mean, you have to be. I mean, I truly believe that it kind of goes back to what I was just saying a moment ago, adapting to a situation or being able to drop into the shoes of said person or said people and being able to understand where they come from, even if it's not from like a true I've been there and done that circumstance. Like, you have to fundamentally try to break down where this person or their emotions or their circumstances are coming from and adapt to it. Body language. For example, like, audience, Brian's moving around right now, as you can see, like, he's moving because he's stiff. He's moving because there's something that's going on. So then I go and check. It's like, well, wait a minute. Am I stiff? Yeah, I guess I am. My back kind of hurts a little bit. So I need to move. I need to make an adjustment. Like, so you're always taking in. You're always perceiving. You're always
Sponge,
understanding.
baby.
Always. So, and like, I always tell people, like, you have to be a chameleon. And I've, as you know, my profession of, selling suits, at least for a little while in my career, that's like top tier. Like, you have to be a chameleon. If you're a good salesperson, you're a chameleon.
Absolutely. So, moving on from charismatic people that we have here sitting across from me, next is altruism. So, uniting these qualities is the protagonist's unyielding desire to do good in and for their communities, be it in their own home or the global stage. Warm and selfless protagonists genuinely believe that if they can just bring people together, they can do a world of good. What do you think, Celeste? Are you an altruistic individual?
So this is just gonna make me. I don't know. I
Go.
can't.
Brag
All
about
right.
yourself, girl.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll put a breadcrumb down. You can talk.
Uh-huh.
That's why I created all of us. There's the breadcrumb.
Go.
Now it's your
right.
turn.
So I guess I can kind of get behind that. Like again, I because I moved.
You also don't have to. You can say that this is wrong if you don't feel that way. You disagree with it, which
I mean, to a point, I disagree with it. For me, I'm not like that with everyone exactly. Just people who have like similarities to me.
Oh yeah.
So in school, it's gonna sound so nerdy. I brought together two new clubs in my high school. I was the
she created clubs. What were the clubs?
anime and DDR.
Anime and DDR. She's a dance queen. She's a dance queen. She got the moves. Girls got the moves.
So yeah, I was the president of both of those clubs because I brought them in. And I had to contact like a teacher and have them be our, the one who monitored us. But
Yeah, you sound awfully altruistic to me right now. Also, I remember the first time that I ever met you, you literally were like, hey, look at these communities that I'm a part of. Look at these people. Like, I can connect you to these communities. Like, we're going to get...
cosplay too.
Maybe day one, huh?
That's right.
Girl's altruistic. She doesn't even know. Subconscious behavior. All right. And the last main strength of the ENFJ, they are natural leaders. More than seeking authority themselves, protagonists often end up in leadership roles at the request of others, cheered on by the many admirers of their strong personality and positive vision.
Positive vision? Is that the...
Neutral or positive. Looking forward.
I mean,
Heads up, baby.
Yeah.
It's all of us way.
This one I think is true, but I think this one is harder and not as tangible because for me that positivity is something that is the external part, which is in the E part of the beginning. You know what I mean? So seeing the negativity around is hard to then pluck positivity out of that. So self-generated positivity is something that I rely on a lot. And so when I can't get that external, then I use the self-generated internal, and hopefully that suffices enough to be able to get my chemical balance where I need to be.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's how
leader.
I feel. Yeah, to be that leader.
Let's actually, now that you talked about that, let's go back real quick here because I want to break down kind of the differences between the ENFJ and the ENFP. So the ENFJ, because you're the J, right, that is going to make your extroversion your primary function. So because you're an extrovert and you're a judger, it's going to make you extroverted in your primary function. Your primary function is intuition. So you're going to gather, your dominant preference is to gather, understand, and trust information that you've derived from pattern recognition in the past experiences, and then tend to extrapolate assumptions and how those patterns will play out in the future. Do you feel like your first preference is connecting the dots, thinking about what's happened before and making decisions based on those types of things and expecting that out of people rather than somebody just saying, I'm going to do something different? Are you like, okay, we'll see about that, and you do it, prove it, kind of thing? And then when they do it, then it'll change your mind.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah?
It's just going off experience. Like, again, all my experiences that I've learned were from high school. And I would usually...
You've learned more out of high school? You didn't only learn in high school.
Okay, well, I learned more in high school.
She learned more in high school.
Because middle school, growing up, I was just moving around, so I didn't have a lot of friends.
Not a lot of learning going on.
Besides, basic education.
Yeah.
And not how to, fill out a tax form
2 plus
or anything like that. The important shit
Equals
that you
3.
need to know. Yeah. Are we allowed to curse? I'm sorry if I
No, you're
curse. We're
fine.
not allowed to. All right. anyways, just taking like just perspective and everything, like making friends overall.
Yeah.
Besides being the president, that's how I made most of my friends. I would like scope out what people liked.
Mm-hmm.
I was silent in the class,
Yeah.
but I don't know why I was just like the person who would step out of my comfort zone a lot of the times to make friends, or even involuntarily being a leader in a group. You
Yeah.
know, those class assignments are like, okay, let's have a group session. And then no one wants to step up to be a leader, and they would just look at me. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to do this.
Well, maybe it's because you've seen it so much in the past, because I think that, would you guys agree with me that leaders are more rare than followers?
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely. So if we're going to take that into consideration, then the pattern of the average or a large majority of society, the pattern would be that they're not going to step up because there's less leaders, right? So therefore, the primary extroverted, intuitive part of you is going to notice that most people aren't going to step up, so you're going to just step up.
I found myself doing that a lot.
Okay, that's it. Very interesting. So the difference between that and the ENFP is the P is going to the perceiving portion is going to be it's going to be, what are we doing here? For extroverts, it's going to describe their primary function. So my primary function is going to be the perceiving things and perceiving the, what am I? I'm also intuition. So
Yep.
so the same as you guys.
Yep.
We're both. No, sorry. My bad. I said that differently. We're not talking about the intuition. That did make sense though. But and it should. But the so you guys are going to, for extroverts, it's going to be your primary function. So your primary function is going to be judging, where my primary function is going to be perceiving, rather than the secondary function. You're judgmental. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. All right, we're going back. So that's kind of a little difference between the two of us. So your guys' weaknesses. Ooh, let's get heated. Let's get heated here. So is this true about you? Are you weak?
Yes.
That's awesome. So are you overly idealistic? People with the protagonist personality type can be caught off guard as they find that through circumstance or nature or simple misunderstanding, people fight against them and defy the principles they've adopted. However well-intentioned they may be, they are more likely to feel pity for this opposition than anger. They can earn a reputation of being naive. What do you think?
Yeah, I
Overly
agree with
idealistic.
everything up until the last part of being naive. Because I think that, like, for me, all those boxes check. The naive part, it's like I don't, me personally, I don't associate the word naive with all of the other things that were just bulleted. I think it's a completely opposite word.
But it's not it's not that you think you're naive. It's, do you think that other people may think it's about your reputation. So do you think that other people may think you're naive, even if because maybe you haven't expressed outwardly, because it's a weakness of yours, you haven't expressed to them and shown them maybe that you aren't?
I mean, maybe, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't think that people would consider, in this specific circumstance, people would consider me naive in certain things, but maybe in other circumstances they would. Like, maybe he doesn't think this, and maybe he should, and maybe he could be enlightened to this, or whatever. It might make him better. Like, I don't know.
I would say that there was, I think that I feel less, if we were on a continuum, I feel about you, I feel less now than in that area. I feel less towards you, that you're less naive now because I live with you. Probably because we interact a lot more than I did in past. Like, I can think of a couple specific times where I'd had a conversation with someone, not necessarily saying that you are naive, but that you're believing in something that we don't necessarily understand why you would be so into it or so like it doesn't make sense. Like for example, becoming a streamer, right? You're not going to jump in and just make a ton of money right off the bat. It's a process, right? Just like most things in life. And so some people that are very financially minded are going to look at that and say, they're not going to make any money. Why are they wasting their time? Right? And they might think that you're naive. And they might think that I'm naive because I'm doing the same thing with you, buddy. But they don't understand that there's a lot more to it than just that. There's a lot of joy that comes with it. There's a lot of connection. There's us being able to talk about our thoughts and just it's something to perform that feels good and gives energy to us. And they might not understand that because it's not a financial pursuit and maybe they're financially driven, but they could see us as naive for following this pursuit.
Especially if it comes off as being naive, I think that's one thing. I think the perception of naivety, then yes, that's totally applicable.
Yeah,
absolutely. But the characteristics or the harrowing necessary of like, this is naive or this person is naive for X, Y, and Z reasons. I think that grays the area a little bit and makes it a little bit more muddy in terms of like this circumstance or that circumstance or this person. But yeah, I think I would agree with that.
So isn't this interesting that we just went through all of their strengths, complete agreement. We get to their first weakness, disagreement. It's
a matter of understanding of words.
I know, but I just think that it's a funny thing because we're generally going to think of, people are naturally defensive of themselves, right? And if you're saying this is a weakness of yours, and you're naturally going to think, well, certain people, right? But you're like a natural instinct would be fight or flight response to that,
sure.
To fight it or to just say, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care at all.
Yeah. I think it goes a step further though too, as far as like understanding and trying to figure out what the question was asked and like the clarification as far as like, is it the person who is being naive or is it the perception of other people who think that person might be naive? And so for me, that was the disconnect. And that's where I didn't understand that. That's why if it came off as being fight versus flight, then it was a matter of not understanding the context of the question.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm right there with you. So next one, let's send this one to Celeste. So Celeste, are you too selfless? Protagonists can bury themselves in their hopeful promises, feeling others' problems as their own and striving hard to meet their word. If they aren't careful, they can spread themselves too thin and be left unable to help anyone. Do you feel like you're too selfless sometimes? Are you just too much of a giver sometimes to where it breaks down some things that are actually good for you and you don't put time into yourself because you're doing things for others?
Yeah, I can say I agree with that, especially with my last relationship. I was too much of a giver and more concentrated on them than myself. And that's what the same with friends.
Did it break you down over time, kind of?
Oh, yeah. I was, like, miserable. I did the same with my friends. It seems like a lot of the times when I try to reach out or when I have friends, it feels like I'm the one reaching out to them.
Yeah.
And not vice versa.
Gotcha.
Or if they need help, I'm one of the first people to help them. But when the tables are turned and I need the help,
they're not there.
Yeah. There's
gotcha.
Like,
it's the pattern that's been set, right? It's the boundary that's been set that you'll always be there for me. So, all right. Will fluctuating self-esteem. Protagonists define their self-esteem by whether they are able to live up to their ideals and sometimes ask for criticism more out of insecurity than out of confidence, always wondering what they could do better. If they fail to meet a goal or to help someone they said they'd help, their self-confidence will undoubtedly plummet.
Yes, 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 and yes, and yes. Next question.
Okay. They struggle to make tough decisions. If caught between a rock and a hard place, protagonists can be stricken with paralysis. God, they are just go intense on these. Imagining all the consequences of their actions, especially if those consequences are humanitarian.
Oof.
Totally. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely accurate as far as my life's like and how I approach things and how I understand and deal with things. So absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Bring it along.
Absolutely.
All right. We're gonna do mine, but we're just gonna run through them quickly because I'm not as interesting as these two. So my strengths are being curious. When it comes to new ideas, campaigners aren't interested in brooding. They want to go out and experience things. They don't hesitate to step out of their comfort zones to do so. Campaigners are imaginative and open-minded, seeing all things as part of a big, mysterious puzzle called life. Will, am I a curious individual?
Definitely.
Yeah? You think so?
As far as I've only known you like for a limited time, but all the crap that I mentioned to you, you're like super interested in. Like, yeah, do that. Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah, I literally would love to try to at least do anything once for sure. Like, and I'll genuinely be interested. Like, what can we learn from this situation? Teach me. I don't care if we're talking about neuroscience, rocket science, Rocket League, or running wild. You know, like let's do it all, baby. Let's go. So
Gotta get that Rocket League in there.
You know, hey, we got gamers on this channel, baby. We also got Real Stunt Panda. Another strength's observant. Campaigners believe that there are no irrelevant actions, that every shift in sentiment, every move, and every idea is part of something bigger. To satisfy their curiosity, campaigners try to notice all of these things and never miss a moment. I think so.
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah, Will's got to answer these. Energetic and enthusiastic. Absolutely not!
Yeah, no.
Come on, people!
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm dead in the water!
It's ridiculous.
As they observe forming new connections and ideas, campaigners won't hold their tongues. They're excited about their findings, and they share them with anybody who will listen. Will you listen? Please, listen to it! God! Sorry.
Yes, this is very true.
This infectious enthusiasm has the dual benefit of giving campaigners a chance to make more social connections and of giving them a new source of information and experience as they fit their new friends' opinions into their existing ideas. Talk to me, people. Leave comments. I'm interested.
Yeah.
And we'll go back and forth, and we don't have to agree, but I'm interested in why you may have a different opinion than me.
Yeah, that sentence was a mouthful, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's exactly what you strive. That's exactly what you need to fulfill that, you know.
It's kind of weird.
It's
kind of weird how on this stuff is.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, getting that gratification from outside, you know.
Yep. Another strength, excellent communicators. It is a good thing that campaigners have such strong people skills.
Wow!
Or they never express these ideas. Campaigners enjoy both small talk and deep, meaningful conversations, which are just two sides of the same coin for them, and are adept at steering conversations towards their desired subjects in ways that feel completely natural and unforced.
Is brought to you by Lunesta. Lunesta makes you tired.
Celeste, what do you think? Am I an excellent communicator? Was it difficult? So we first met. So we first met at a donut shop, and I got you a coffee and a donut, and we sat down and talked for 30 minutes before I went and sweated my buns off up at OHSU doing a VO2 max test. How was that first meeting? Were you like, whoa, this guy is awkward? Or were you like, this guy is an excellent communicator?
One correction. You ate both the donuts. I did not eat any.
We didn't want donuts. The coffee shop was closed. It was the only thing available. I'm sorry.
He still ate both of them. Two. I would say you're okay.
Oh, it's okay. No,
I think you were.
I'm okay. Not that great.
Yeah. Just okay.
Just okay. Oh, I'm fine with okay. You know, I'm working my way towards excellent communicator at the moment. Just okay, but we're getting there. All right. Time will tell. They know how to relax. It's not all nature of the cosmos. Discussing with campaigners. People with this personality type know that sometimes nothing is as important as simply having fun and experiencing life's joys. That intuitive trait lets campaigners know that it's time to shake things up, and these wild bursts of enthusiastic energy can surprise even their closest friends. Let's do a podcast right now at 11 p.m.
What?
We're going to do it.
Huh?
The audio doesn't work. Nothing works. We're going to do it.
I
Okay.
have half an hour to drive back home.
Yes, you do.
This.
So that one I think fits, just based on our current situation right now.
Yes.
Oh, this last one's hard to say.
Say it, baby.
I mean, I'm going to say it, but like currently, I don't think that it's true. I think for the majority of my life, it has been true, but right now I'm having a hard time. So, very popular and friendly. All this adaptability and spontaneity comes together to form a person who is approachable, interesting, and exciting, with a cooperative and altruistic spirit and friendly, empathetic disposition. Campaigners get along with pretty much everyone, and their circle of friends stretch far and wide.
So you'd say up till the last little bit of your life, you have definitely dabbled and, used that tool set to your advantage and being able to build your persona, being able to understand who you are. But you said just a moment ago, now you feel it's a little bit different. You feel that, something has changed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it doesn't feel like it's necessarily like an identity change. It's more like a situational change of life.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that I've not spread my wings and connected with as many people as I used to, and I've kind of narrowed my scope into some really close people and put a lot of time and energy into a few people who are really, really close to me. Because honestly, when things are hard in your life, and I've had some really tough times recently, and when things are hard in life, like Celeste was saying, you need those people that you can reach out to that are going to be there, right? And if people aren't there for you, if they don't even ask what's wrong with you, people that you see every single day or a few times a week or whatever, and if they don't even ask how you're doing, then sometimes you got to let them off the bus. And if you pay attention to our channel, we talk about that all the time, the energy bus. And sometimes you got to let them off the bus. And I'm the kind of person who it's difficult for me because I will work really hard to try to reestablish or maintain a relationship with somebody. And I'll even go the extra mile sometimes to find their interests more interesting, or to try to just at least learn about them more, and so I can talk to them about it. And so we have a way to connect, and but when things are really, really hard, you don't necessarily have the time to be going out of your way to, do something that you're not really interested in to just have another friend. So you kind of got to, you do close in and you do focus more on survival, honestly, emotionally, psychologically, physically, those types of things. And at that point, you need to have reliable people in your life, and you need to reinforce those reliable people in your life and make sure that network is strong moving forward. And then once that foundation is set, you can bounce back out and you can make some more awesome, cool new friends. So I'm looking forward to expanding my circle again, but right now that's kind of just where I'm at.
Thanks, man, for answering that. I appreciate that. That was really good. Yeah, that felt like it was, exactly where you are at this point and what you're assessing and what you're processing. So
Yeah, dude.
you got a level head, man. Love you, buddy.
Bro, I'm real like J-Lo. Throwback. My weakness is stab me. Let's do it. So I have poor practical skills. When it comes to conceiving ideas and starting projects, especially involving other people, campaigners have exceptional talent. Unfortunately, their skill with upkeep, administration, and follow-through, starter, not a closer.
What?
So I guess we're not going to play D&D again.
ASMR. AMSR. How do we... ASMR. Yeah. Here's just a little taste of more to come. Brought to you by Scarlet and Road. Yeah. So... No. Good God. So, yeah, no practical skill. So, basically, I have... Woo!
I mean,
unfortunately, their skill with upkeep, administration, and follow-through in those projects struggles. Without more hands-on people to help push day-to-day things along, campaigners' ideas are likely to remain just that, ideas. Need a closer in my life. That's where the J comes in. That's where the juice from these two help close the deal when I open it up. Hello, Streambot 174-829. Hello.
All right. Hello, Streambots. Yeah, the Mariano Rivera coming in for you. The
Dude.
cut fastball coming in for you, baby.
Dude, chopping it up,
That's
man.
right. Enter Sandman.
Mm-hmm. I'll spend 6 months growing that barley, and you just scythe it down with that cut fastball.
I'll scythe it. Nice $2 word.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Find it difficult to focus. Bouncing around. Campaigners are natural explorers of interpersonal connections and philosophy, but this backfires when they need to be done. When what they need to be done is that TPS report sitting right in front of them. It's hard for campaigners to maintain interest as tasks drift towards routine, administrative matters, and away from broader concepts. God, when we're just doing the same monotonous thing.
Audio.
I need to be learning. Teach me something new. Novel experience. Let's go.
You mean you don't like running into a brick wall with audio for 48 hours straight? You don't like that?
Dude, that was brutal on my psyche.
I know.
Literally brutal on my psyche.
I know.
We fought through it.
I was saying I haven't seen you to the point in a long time where you have all fours, just knees down, head down in a chair,
Yeah.
going
Dude, I
like
was
legitimately
busted.
upset.
I was busted. We were so deep, you have no idea, people. Anyways, I overthink things. Campaigners don't take things at face value. They look for underlying motives. What's going on there? And even the simplest things. It's not uncommon for campaigners to lose a bit of sleep asking themselves why someone did what they did, why'd you do it, what it might mean, why are you, and what to do about it. I'd say that's probably the one maybe least so far of my weaknesses.
That's the one.
I would say that's my
least applicable.
least applicable one so far. I would say that I definitely am aware of motives, but I don't think that I necessarily like lose a ton of sleep over it. I lose a ton of sleep over, like we were talking about with the pattern recognition and the intuition part, the extroverted intuition that we both have.
Yep.
I would say that I definitely have a lot more going on in that realm where if I connect a lot of dots and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I see the train wreck coming, like I literally know what's
Sure.
happening. Like
Sure.
you just pushed us off the cliff. I know where we're gonna fall.
Right.
And that kind of thing makes me think and keeps me up at night. But I don't think I'm overthinking something that isn't clearly going to happen. I don't think I'm just like, I don't throw out wild assumptions and just like get anxiety about that kind of stuff. I'm pretty easy in that realm. But if I see it coming, woo, I'm like,
That's what she said.
oh, God, thank you. Thanks for throwing that one's for everyone out there who enjoys a nice that's what she said joke. That was perfect.
I mean, it was
You nailed it. You were right on top of it. Good job. Get stressed easily. All this overthinking isn't just for their own benefit. Campaigners, especially turbulent ones, are very sensitive and care deeply about others' feelings. A consequence of their popularity is that others often look to them for guidance and help, which takes time. And it's easy to see why campaigners sometimes get overwhelmed, especially when they can't say yes to every request. So that can happen, for sure. I'm a yes man. I want to do it. If you want to do it, especially if it's cool and it's new, let's do it. And I'll be like, yes. And pretty soon I'm like, whoa, I got too many yeses out there. Like that happens with my job because I got a schedule, and sometimes I'll be like, yes. And then pretty soon I'm like, oh God, I just double booked like three hours in a row. Like, how am I going to organize this? Like, it doesn't happen as much. Happened more in my earlier career. I'm better at it now, but I've seen that happen before. Highly emotional. While emotional expression is highly unnatural with campaigners, even viewing it as a core part of their identity, it can come out strongly enough to cause problems for this personality type. Particularly when under stress, criticism, or conflict, campaigners can experience emotional bursts that are counterproductive at best. Absolutely. For sure. I know that I don't handle I can handle conflict. Like, I can handle other people's conflict. I can handle conflict that's about subjects outside myself. When it's about me, I definitely get defensive, and that is that's my, I'm flooded, I need to walk away, use use the old techniques. God, I'm blanking on their name right now. They're Washington romance people. Anyways, went to a conference of theirs a while back. Whatever. But yeah, I can definitely have an emotional outburst. You gotta hit my fuse, right? Know my buttons. There's a few people that definitely know my buttons, and they know how to push them, and that you don't want to be in the way. You don't want to be in the way. My dad's like that too, man. My dad is like just super soft. He's just a sweetie, big teddy bear. But if you get there, shotgun blast, baby, get out the way. Last weakness, independent to a fault. Campaigners loathe being micromanaged and restrained by heavy-handed rules. They want to be seen as highly independent masters of their own fates, even possessors of altruistic wisdom that goes beyond draconian law. The challenge for campaigners is that they live in a world of checks and balances, a pill they are not happy to swallow. This is my biggest weakness of all. My gosh, come on, Celeste. This is my biggest weakness. No doubt about it.
This is it, huh?
Oh yeah, this is the thing that I struggle with more than anything. I'm just gonna say it right now. So I'm going to work. Last week. Or no, it was of course, on the 4th of July, the greatest day ever. So on the 4th of July, we had holiday hours at my work. And during holiday hours, we are not allowed to, or the door that we typically are able to use at my work, we're not allowed to use that. So we have to use the front entrance, which employees are not allowed to use typically. But I was there right on time for work, and I was expecting to just walk in the door, boom, 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 get to work. I get there, and holiday hours, so they closed our door. So I'm like, okay, so I would have had to go back out, like up 4 flights of stairs. I would have walked back across the street, up 4 flights of stairs, back across the Sky Bridge, just to come to the exact same building, go back down 4 flights of stairs, just to get to where I already was, just inside the door.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would have been late for my client.
Right.
So I went to the front door, and I'm like, our normal doors closed for holiday hours. Like, I need to get to a client. Like, let me in. I'm an employee here.
Yeah.
No. Wouldn't let me in. So I honestly got in trouble. I have a meeting with my boss on Monday.
Do you really?
About using the front door, because we are not, just like this, highly independent masters of their own fates, even presents an altruistic window that goes beyond draconian law. So, like, basically, this is it. I want equality for everyone. We live in 2019. I want to be independent. I don't want to feel like we're not allowed to use a door. Like, what is this? Like, slave labor? Like, come on. Like, we are people. Like, I'm not gonna like sit in the middle of the doorway so other people can't use it or something. Like, I don't know. It's a really difficult one for me. We've slowly broken this wall down. We weren't able to use a turnstile at one point. We now have access to the turnstile. And we just got access to this new door. So I'm being scolded because if too many employees break this rule, then they're going to take the door away from us, and we're going to have to go back to going through the garage, which would suck. And so I don't want to do that. I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to be a good boy. But it is something that's difficult for me to take.
Well, and probably because you have to be someone who is a trendsetter, somebody who also they look highly up to at your establishment as well too, as far as with your personal training and the tier that you're at and the things like, I mean, you carry a good clout around that place. And so I think that maybe, or do you think that maybe them coming down on you harder is a representation of trying to make sure that their message is heard because they want their best player, they want their best people to obviously follow along with their door code lines?
The second one.
Gotcha. I would say possibly.
Yeah.
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is the fact that they have to enforce the rule as their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my boss is like, it's their job to enforce the
Sure.
rule, and they don't want the people above them giving them flack because they let me get away with my thing.
Right.
So I understand it. It makes sense.
Sure.
And one day it'll change. And
Exactly.
at that point, it's great. I just need to bite the bullet and stop trying to crusade my way through the front door. You know, even when it makes 100% times a billion % to me, I gotta be late for my client and just walk back out and do the thing. And I don't know. Maybe I'm too entitled to the door.
To the door.
Back of the bus, baby. So I think that's kind of I would really love for everybody out there to leave us comments below about what your personality type is, and there's so many more routes to go with this. I think that you guys really should do this on your own and find out what you are and find out kind of like what your family or the people close to you are, and try to see what your strengths and weaknesses are, and find, like I said, it doesn't all need to be, that's why we did this. It doesn't all need to be spot on, but it's interesting how many of the strengths we agreed with and how many of the weaknesses that we agreed with. And I would say we're up in probably the 80-90 percentile.
Absolutely.
Right? So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We want to have more conversations about this topic. So if you guys are interested, shoot some stuff our way. You can find us on Twitter, on YouTube. You can watch us live stream on twitch.tv/allofusstudios. If you're really into our content, we would love for you guys to join one of our tiers on our Patreon page. And you can find that at All of Us Studios as well. And at our website, you can find apparel, or basically all of our stuff is up on our website. So check that out. You can find our Discord channel up there if you want to connect and actually be on our podcast at some point. You can connect through our Discord, and we can have you live on our podcast with us, which would be awesome. We always invite collaboration with other streamers or anybody out there who is highly motivated and hopefully has a little bit of an idea about a specific topic that they want to talk about. We'd love to take on, like I said, I'm all about it. I'm a campaigner. I'm all about taking on new novel experiences. So let's do this thing, okay? So we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks.